school system. Tonight, things will be a little bit different. As I said, this is our first of what we hope will be many work sessions that we will have. So it's a trial and error. So anything that goes wrong, we'll correct the next time. But thanks to our audience, viewing audience, as well as our audience with us tonight, we want to welcome all of you. And with that being said, Dr. Register, do you have anything you'd like to say before we get started?
Yes, I'll introduce it if I may.
Please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, welcome to the first work session. And as I said privately before this started, there will be a test at the end, and your grades will be published. Not so. We've been looking forward to this, and I hope it's the first of many sessions where board members have an opportunity to really delve in depth into some of the work that goes on in the school system. And I think a very fitting start, a very fitting first one, is to introduce you to the data warehouse. We are being recognized nationally. We have people coming from all over the country, from government, from private business, and also from other school systems to see what's going on with our work in the data warehouse. And I think it's very appropriate that we give you an opportunity to actually work with it in this work setting, and to have an opportunity to see what we can do, the capacity that we have, the capabilities that we have with this data warehouse. It's intended to be informal. It's intended to be a work session, and I know there's going to be a little bit of presentation at the beginning, but really an opportunity for you to work with this as we go on. We have Vicki Philpo with us, who's Director of Enterprise Data Systems, and Laura Hanson, who's Director of our Data Warehouse. I know we have data coaches and some other people. I'm not going to introduce anyone else. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Vicki and say Vicki's been with us a while. This is a project that has been in the developmental stages for several years now, predating me. I wish I could take all the credit. I'll take a little bit of the credit for the end work, but Chris Henson deserves a lot of credit, and a lot of other people, John Williams, but also before John, Lance, and a lot of other people, in getting us to this point with our data warehouse that we think's state of the art in the country. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Vicki and let you start the presentation and discussion. Vicki?
Thank you, Dr. Register. Madam Chairman, members of the board, our team has three objectives for this work session today. To give you a big picture presentation, which will include personal experiences by some of our top data warehouse users, to take you on a guided tour of the data warehouse with the assistance of data warehouse team members and data coaches, and lastly, to hear your feedback about MNPS leads and the things you've heard and what you've experienced during this session. If we look at the agenda, first of all, we will have Laura Hanson, our Director of Information Management and Decision Support, will talk to you about the data warehouse concepts and philosophies, what it is and why it's important. Then I'll talk to you about capacity, growth, sustainability, the project and long-term staffing strategies we have, where we are right now in our data and our reporting, and where we're going. Then we'll have a user panel moderated by Shannon Black, which consists of 5 of our top users who will tell you about their experiences with the data warehouse and how the warehouse has assisted them in their planning and their academic strategies. Then we'll go on the tour. You will be personally assisted on a 30-minute tour of the data warehouse. After that, Dr. Register will moderate a 15-minute open board discussion. So as you can see, we have a lot to do. So let's get started. Laura?
Okay, and I am going to read to make sure we maximize your 30 minutes and I don't get off track. I'm going to start out giving you an overview of the big picture of what we hope the data warehouse can support. The data warehouse is simply a technology tool, albeit an incredibly cool one. And will only be valuable if we intentionally leverage its capacity to make changes in the way we do business and make decisions. To improve student performance, we need to be able to have a view of the whole child. There are so many factors that contribute to our students achieving academically. We have a great deal of information on where students are academically, but improvement in student outcomes depends a great deal on what is happening with our students over time and within the various domains of their lives that occur outside of the school day. We consider our data warehouse to be an education intelligence system that will consolidate information from a variety of sources and help us do a better job of providing differentiated instruction, opportunities, and interventions that meet the individual needs of our youth, children, and families. The slide illustrates that we often rely on information gleaned from students' time in school and a bit on what happens during after-school programming. There are many aspects of a student's life, however, that happen in the spaces indicated by the question marks on this illustration, from birth to 21 years of age, in the hours before and after school, and during the summer and during holidays. There are non-academic outcomes that are critical to a student being successful in their K-12 years and in college, work, and life. Some of these outcomes include civic outcomes, social emotional outcomes, physical outcomes, vocational outcomes, and cognitive development outcomes. We need to make sure we look at the whole child as much as possible in order for the academic and support systems to ensure that every student has what he or she needs to reach their potential. A consolidated data system that makes key information on various outcomes for our students easily accessible to schools, community-based organizations, and government agencies is important. Successful, informed decision-making relies on this complete picture of the needs of our students. You go to the next slide. To make a difference in the various outcome areas that contribute to student success in college, work, and life requires a collaborative approach and ownership for ensuring that students make it successfully through the education pipeline without dropping through the cracks. Student achievement is the focus of our school district, but the responsibility for the success of our students relies on a collaborative ownership and accountability for these student outcomes. Ownership by students, teachers, school-based and central office staff and leaders, parents and families, city leaders, community-based organizations, and ultimately the community at large. Information about children, youth, and families is required not only by those working in the education pipeline, but also by those providing basic services, transportation, health, mental health, housing, financial, those community-based organizations and agencies providing learning and engagement supports, such as child care providers, after-school programs, civic, social, work opportunities, social supports, and placement and coaching services for those who make it to the end. Information on how we are making progress toward success is needed by families and community members as well. Information is the glue that allows the various supports to work together and be informed about what is working and what needs to be improved to ensure we are making the most of our resources and providing services, both educational and supportive, in the most efficient and effective way possible. Our goal with the data warehouse is to create a system that will provide information that will allow these many key supports, both inside the education pipeline and those that are considered insulation, to be informed and work together based on a shared understanding of the issues, trends, and needs of the students in our district. You go on to the next one. Our data warehouse is called LEADS, L-E-A-D-S, which stands for, get ready for this, Longitudinal Education Analysis and Decision Support. That's why we call it LEADS. And has become the hub of education intelligence for the district. The development of a data warehouse is still in the early phases, and it will continue to grow and develop over time to incorporate more and more information on student outcomes. This slide gives an overview of some of the various domains of MNPS data, specifically MNPS data, that are or will be included in the data warehouse. The colored discs indicate data areas that are complete or partially complete, and the white discs indicate areas for development. Each area has its own source system, which are separated software systems or locations where data is gathered. These are often referred to as silos, as data is kept within the systems, and those who do not work with these systems do not have readily available access to the information contained within them. The purpose and the power of the data warehouse is to bring data from these disparate systems together to allow for more advanced analytics and evaluation and facilitate more informed decision making. So you can kind of see those different areas. So some of this advanced decision making, for example, just kind of looking at some of these particular areas, comparing teacher attendance to student and class achievement, comparing expenditures in various areas to academic gains in the areas where there were increased expenditures, comparing student health and assessing the impact on student achievement or engagement, evaluating the post-secondary success of our students against various aspects of K-12 curriculum, grading practices, etc. Bringing all information about a student together to form a comprehensive student profile that facilitates more informed decision-making on how to make an individual student successful, and in some cases allows for the determination of root causes of student performance issues. The systems represented here are those internal to MNPS. We are also looking to include data gathered by other community agencies and organizations, providing services to our students that support learning outcomes. You will hear about some of these other community data areas when Vicki goes over the data warehouse development roadmap for you. If you think about all of the data included in these systems and ponder the possible combinations that could be analyzed to help us understand the complex dynamics that act together to create our student achievement outcomes, you begin to see the power of bringing information together and using it to inform a variety of stakeholders in order to improve and differentiate services and supports, as well as teaching and learning approaches. Okay. So how do we get from all of this big picture thinking to action? This is the role of my office. The Office of Information Management and Decision Support is focused on achieving MNPS Strategic Goal number 4, which addresses the first of the top reform efforts. Goal 4 is to provide an effective data system to support instruction. A data system is not just the technology. By definition, a system is a set of interacting and interdependent components forming an integrated whole. In the case of a data system to support instruction, the system has 4 components: people, processes, technology, and content. My department approaches our work with attention to all 4 of these areas to ensure that MNPS has the strongest, most efficient, and effective data system possible to support desired outcomes for our students. The information management function of my department includes a data quality and compliance team. Data quality is a critical component to an effective data system. The information we get out of the data warehouse will only be as good as the quality of the information that was entered into the various source systems. This team is also responsible for managing the reporting to the State Department of Education and ensuring the data is accurate for accountability and funding purposes. This office has central office as well as school-based staff and work in an area that range from state and local policy and procedure to user support and data entry process coaching with a focus on the Chancery SMS system, which is the primary source system for our data warehouse. The decision support function of my office is more focused on the data warehouse as a tool to support the transformation of MNPS to a data-driven decision-making culture. This office has a coordinator for business intelligence that works to promote the discipline of data-driven decision-making, support our central office departments to leverage available data to improve performance, and facilitate requirements gathering for data warehouse reporting to meet stakeholder needs. This office also works with community and government organizations and agencies to support the expansion of the data warehouse to other data areas and provide these critical partners with increased capacity to use data to inform their decisions with regard to supporting positive outcomes for our students. The director and coordinator of business intelligence positions are funded through Race to the Top, with plans for funding these positions to be absorbed into the operating budget over 4 years. Now I'd like to turn things over to Vicki Philpo, who will give you an overview of the work of the technical team and some details about the data available in the warehouse now and where we are going in the future.
I think we're sharing a mic now. Okay. Thank you, Laura. The MNPS Leads implementation project spanned from July of 2008 to its completion in January of 2010. Otis Education Solutions Incorporated provided an industry standard database platform and baseline functional data warehouse model. They also provided one on-site implementation specialist for the duration of the project. That person mentored our technical team on industry standard development techniques for data warehousing. He also trained the technical team on the OtisEd platform, and he provided assistance in project management, planning assistance and project management services. The district provided 2 in-house resources as well as a couple of contracted resources. We had 2 senior developers from the IT Software Development Services Department, a business analyst resource from Leadership and Learning, and we also engaged 2 contracted resources who helped to build the database, create the data validations, and warehouse content. They also assisted with our initial reporting development. In January of 2010, the data warehouse implementation project completed and the vendor resources engaged walked away. The capital outlay from district operating funds for this project was less than $800,000. All data housed in MNPS Leads now spans from 2007-08 through the current school year. In the remainder of 2010-11, our team continued to work with district administration to explore and enhance MNPS Leads reporting. We also began introducing the data warehouse to school administrators and their leadership teams to gain further input on the reporting needs at the school level. Go ahead. A critical win in this project was the equipping of in-house technical staff with the needed knowledge and expertise to continue to grow and manage and support the MNPS Leads data warehouse in the long term. This gives us the capability to respond quickly and surely to district priorities and changing needs. It also eliminates the need to engage, educate, and pay for expensive contract or external resources whose knowledge is lost when they walk away. Internal expertise also eliminates the need to be tethered to a vendor when additional requirements are recognized. In 2010, the district was granted $1.325 million in Race to the Top funds to assist us in establishing that internal capacity over a 4-year period. With those funds, we have created the Business Intelligence Solutions Department within IT, which is a small team of IT professionals who possess deep knowledge, expansive expertise, and a strong work ethic required to carry MNPS Leads into the future. We also established the leadership of the new Information Management and Decision Support Department. The Race to the Top funds decrease at approximately 25% each of the 4 years, ending with the 2013-2014 fiscal year. It is important that we acknowledge that the long-term success of MNPS Leads depends on the commitment by the district and the board to continue funding these resources beyond the Race to the Top funding period. In the summer of 2010, an elite team of teachers were hired in a 4-year initiative with the objective to provide professional development at the school level on data-informed decision-making and best practice using MNPS Leads. 12 coaches and 1 coordinator began working with our schools in the 2010-2011 school year. They helped schools uncover how the use of data can enhance decision-making and curricular planning. They also help schools discover ways to enhance student performance through improved practices and decision-making based on credible information. At the end of the 4 years, this team will have completed their work with instructional coaches and school leadership and teachers to embed the use of the data warehouse to improve instruction. Data coach team members will then return to their former lives as some of our best teachers. The instructional coaches will then carry on the work with teachers in their schools to incorporate data into their daily planning and practice. Coaching is also taking place at the central office level. The objectives of this effort are to help central office staff understand the meaning of the data in the data warehouse and its importance in effective decision making, to create the attitude of ownership and student outcomes by all district administrators and staff. The strategy of group conversations and workshops are used to show how data can be used to improve service delivery in any department or division in the organization. The long-term result of both of these initiatives will be the embedding of data-driven decision-making practices district-wide. Our objective and the reason for starting with a student-centric model is to house and provide analysis and reporting on any information that affects either directly or indirectly the educational experience and achievement of an MNPS student. Currently, the data warehouse contains all available information about a student and their daily life in MNPS, such as demographics, enrollment, attendance, discipline, etc. We have extensive reporting on student participation in various academic programs within MNPS, the small learning communities as a good example. Data and reporting have also been made available for authorized users on exceptional ed students by integrating the state EasyIEP system with the data warehouse. We have also incorporated data on student participation in external education-based programs such as NASA, the Nashville After School Zone Alliance. We are currently building the data and reporting around teachers and staff. This should be completed in February. This will include teacher demographics, their licensures and endorsements, attendance, educational background, their professional development activity, as well as the teacher evaluation data as soon as it becomes available. In this slide, you can see the development roadmap through the summer of this year. There are subject areas already in progress by the technical team as well as those which are now in the planning process. The incorporation of state, district, and school student assessments is ongoing. Currently, MNPS Leads holds the results on 17 different assessments, but we have almost 400 different administration results of those assessments currently in our analysis and reporting within the data warehouse. As I mentioned earlier, the addition of teacher and staff data and reporting is nearing completion. Also, the collection and reporting on student post-secondary data is underway. After teacher data will be the integration of district financial data, which will allow administrators to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of dollars spent within the district. This summer, we plan to pull in student attendance in the NASA program. Also, we will begin building TVOS data into the data warehouse for analysis and reporting. Beyond this summer will be the addition of the TEL, Tennessee, and other strategic surveys, student health information, early childhood development or education, and a partnership with Nashville's Promise Neighborhoods initiative to share data on student participation in other academic and developmental programs across the city. There will be many more data arenas to be incorporated into MNPS Leads as additional stakeholders, data sets, and district and community partnership opportunities are discovered. As a result, all of this data will combine to paint a complete picture of the impact both in-school and out-of-school academics and activities have on a student's progress and their preparedness for college and life. We will now move on to our user panel discussion moderated by Shannon Black. Shannon?
Good evening. Upon gathering data warehouse usage statistics, we have assembled a great panel tonight, and we're going to allow them to share some of the insights and how they use the data warehouse on a regular basis. We have Dr. Lindosia Edwards, lead principal of middle school. We have Dr. Jill Pittman, principal of the Overton Freshman Academy. We have Ms. Taylor, EL teacher at Apollo Middle School, Ms. Ann Kirkland, consulting teacher of Croft Middle School, and Ms. Mary Lauren Seeley, who is a data coach for the district. Thank you for being here. So the first question I would like to ask, we'll start with Dr. Edwards, is what would you consider the data warehouse transformational in your work and why?
That answer to me is a big yes, because the data warehouse drives my work. In the past, before data warehouse, it would take me days, weeks, and sometimes even months to compile data in a user-friendly form for schools to use. So for me, it drives everything that I do because it's readily available. And because it's already available in a user-friendly format, I'm able to review data before going to school and as a result, asking the right questions based on what I see from the data warehouse. So basically for me, it allows me to ask principals the right questions. It also allows me to provide resources that are necessary to move student achievement based on the data and to help schools move in that direction.
Great. Dr. Pittman?
Sure. It transforms practice because it helps us create a more complete picture. In institutions, we tell stories about the work that we do, and the data warehouse allows us to tell those stories about our past, about our present, and it even lets us start to predict what will happen in the future. So if you want to have your finger on the pulse and what's happening in a school, and I just left one school and went to another, so for me, my numbers were probably really high on the data warehouse usage because I was able to look at all kind of information about the freshman academy and about the high school, where they've been, where we are now, and that helps me to be able to paint a picture for the staff and for the students of where we want to go. So to echo Lindosia, in the past we had to go to 4 or 5 different places to get data. This is a one-stop shop, and it's not just surface level, it's really deep. So if I'm using the information with kids or with teachers, there is layer upon layer upon layer that you can drill down and get as much insight about a building in one place that you really would need to be able to set goals and to reflect on practice about what's been effective and to make plans about where you need to improve.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Thank you. It's a funny question about transformational because this is actually, I've been teaching about a year and 2 or 3 months. So it's actually, and I come from a business background. I was in business world for 20 years before I started teaching. And so for me, having that data warehouse has been great because it's kind of the way I expect data to be. The idea of going through paper files to try to find a scrap of paper that tells me something about one of my students. And I've done that with information that's not in there, but there's so much stuff that I can just go look at right away to get to know my students. So I do it, I guess I'm here because I'm a frequent user, and I do it just to get to know my students. And it's so nice to have everything in one place in a way that I'm used to seeing it because I enjoy being online, and that's just how I've always gotten my data before.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Kirkland?
I've only been with Metro for 3 years, but prior to that, for the past 30, before that, I was a teacher in Alabama, Texas, and California. After coming to, I have never had such information at my fingertips before. I've taught in great school systems, but never anything like the data warehouse. Just to be able to click a button and get everything you need in data warehouse is amazing. I use it for our ST meetings. I'm a consulting teacher. I'm an instructional coach, so I work with all our teachers. And to be able to pull that information for our success team meetings, for our IEPs, for our teachers, is just such a wonderful tool to be able to use. We used to have to go through CUME folders that were sometimes this thick and dig through to find the information, and it would take hours and hours and hours. But now, because of our data team and what they've done, and Dr. Register and what they've done, it's just wonderful to be able to go to one spot and get all of the information that you need, and it's just invaluable in my position as a consulting teacher.
Great, thank you. Mary Lawrence, next question. What types of data do you most commonly use in your work, and how is it being used to make decisions or take actions?
Sure. As a data coach, I think I've seen the use of the data warehouse on both a district, a cluster, and a school level, and I look at different reports for those. For me, as I have had the privilege of being able to serve on the TLG for disadvantaged youth, which is now being split into a couple of places, but I've been able to look at student mobility across the district, and I know that you have probably heard us talk about that a couple of times in the board meetings, and that has been, the use of the data warehouse has been a wonderful tool powerful to drive true and constructive discussion focused on solutions surrounding that mobility. I've also used, or I frequently use, cluster dashboard and school dashboard reports, looking at some of the hot topics within schools as far as discipline goes, as far as student attendance goes, and then also looking at our students who are flagged as at-risk students, and you'll see a little bit more about that as we move forward. I have a personal interest in the grade reports and looking at our grades and TCAP assessment data as well and how those two correlate, and so I use those reports frequently as well.
Great. Dr. Edwards, data that you use and how you use it to take action.
All right, I also use primarily the school dashboard and cluster dashboard. With the school dashboard, it, as Mary Seeley said, that it has an at-risk report, and so it allows me to help schools track at-risk students. And what I've noticed, even with us tracking the at-risk report, the amount of at-risk students have gone down. And what I mean by that, generally, or in the past, I've had schools at this particular time have a number of students with 3 flags, and it has reduced basically to students with 1 flag. And the flags are simply represented if they have attendance less than 85%, if attendance is an issue, if they've been suspended, ISS, OSS. So it potentially allows us to identify dropouts. So in reducing the at-risk report, then I feel that we can, reduce the dropout rate. Also, with that said, we have counselors now, more involved with those students, trying to identify strategies to help them become more engaged. And in addition to that, I've also used the assessment reporting category report with schools. What it does, it allows schools to look at individual teachers. It's primarily for DEA, discovery education. And from there, you can identify teacher strengths. So we've paired up math teachers who excel in a certain area with math teachers that necessarily do not excel in terms of teaching that particular area. So it has allowed us to pair people based on strengths and help those who are struggling with certain areas.
Thank you. Dr. Pittman, same question.
Yeah, ditto to all of those. I use the student profile every day. When kids come into my office, it is so powerful for me to say, well, let me look up what I can see about you, and to be able to say to a student, you had great attendance in the 7th grade and the 8th grade. This year it really has fallen off. Let's talk about what's happening. I see that you were proficient last year and you moved to advanced on your DEA predictor test. Right on, keep that up. It's really a way to celebrate and to see caution with students, and they love it. They sit down next to you and go, oh my gosh, you know all that about me? And then the other thing that we use it for, at a school level is to look at our cluster feeder patterns. And so what do we see that's happening in the middle schools and Algebra 1 performance, and what does that mean for us? How are we faring? What lessons can we learn from them? So from when principals get together, there's a lot of power in being able to look at, and principals have access to the feeder pattern. So you can look at middle, elementary, and high and see what kind of trends you see within your own cluster.
Great. Ms. Taylor, I'm going to move to the third and final question.
Okay.
Share something you feel is a best practice that involves the use of the data warehouse.
Probably at my level, I'm looking at the students, and we've been doing data talks with the students in intervention. So I can go in and look through all of the data, the TCAP, I'm with ELs, so the TCAP ELSA data, the ELDA data, their attendance, the discipline that they've had, just everything that their grades, everything about them, and as Dr. Pittman said, they love to see that. So we'll go down and have a data talk, and we'll go through a sheet, and I've got all that information there, and we look at it and we talk about it and the trends, and they'll try to let me know why something's going on or why they're having problems and struggling here. So it's just a really good tool to use with a student one-on-one to just let them know that we know what's going on and help them kind of analyze it too. So that, I would say, is the best thing we use it for.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkland.
We use data warehouse reports to drive our instruction. Our teachers and I both use the data for differentiation of instruction, and during intervention, we use it for our grouping. We group, we regroup, we have flexible scheduling to move students in and out of our intervention groups depending on that data. Teachers also use small group instruction in their classrooms, and they use this data for forming their groups to know where to focus their help me with a word, to focus their, you know what I'm talking about. Yes. But to help them focus on their instruction, what they need to be doing, yes. And it's just been totally invaluable. We love it.
Great. Mary Lauren.
I think one of the most powerful images I have when I think of using the data warehouse is working with small groups of teachers and having them look at their students' progress either on a TCAP assessment or from one Discovery Ed assessment to the next, and to have that child's team of teachers talking in the same room to one another, getting everyone on the same page about what's going on with that child, how that child is making progress, not just their reading and math teachers, but all of their teachers, figuring out not only how they're performing academically, but also leading to discussion of ways that they can also provide other types of services to children, and then coming up with an action plan for that. So looking at those reports regarding their progress has been a really wonderful tool, I think.
Great, thank you. We'll let Dr. Pittman respond, and then I think we're ready to let you all delve into the warehouse, Dr. Pittman.
I've been meeting with every freshman seminar class. So that's every class of ninth graders that are having the same class, and kind of a focus is how do we transition successfully through the rest of our high school years and beyond. So I've been able to take data warehouse reports and kind of issue some challenges to the freshmen. Here's where we were on the first Algebra 1 predictor test. Here's where we were on 2. Where will we be on 3? How do we compare to the rest of MPS? And let's set a goal. And the same thing with attendance and percentage of classes that were passed. So we have 3 specific goals in our freshman academy. And all of that was information that we pulled from the data warehouse, and to be able to show that to every freshman seminar class, and then to take our temperature, as I say it, after that, and then say to the kids, it looks like we're on our way to meeting the goal, or we need to work a little harder on reducing discipline referrals. It's really important for them to know that we are measuring what we value in the school in a lot of different ways.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And now I think we'll be able to show you some of those dashboards, at-risk reports, and let you all kind of tour and look around the house.
Will we get an opportunity to ask questions a little bit later?
Absolutely, yes.
So at this time, as we make the transition, board members, we're going to go off camera for a minute or two while they set up, and then we'll come back and go through our personal training activity. Thank you so very much. So at this time, we're going to need people to move down.
Jennifer, we'll start with you.
I'm Jennifer Lee. I'm the manager of our technical, the Business Intelligence Solutions Department. We are the small but mighty team of developers.
I'm Mary Lauren Seeley, and I am one of the data coaches.
My name is Al Gaines, I'm Enterprise Solutions Architect. I was one of the original developers on the warehouse, and continue to do stuff with this department and other departments under the development.
Very good.
Here's my coach.
Okay.
I'm Marla Smith, data coach for Pearl-Cohn Cluster, Pearl-Cohn High School, Whites Creek, Martin Luther King Magnet, Hume Fogg Magnet, Madison Middle, and Neely's Bend Middle School.
I lost my data coach.
Nick Wilson, data coach.
Where are you, Nick?
Antioch High School, Cane Ridge High School, Nashville School of the Arts, Hillwood High School, John F. Kennedy Middle, McMurray Middle, and Oliver Middle.
You sound like my district.
I'm Lisa Baranowski. I'm a middle school data coach. I have Apollo, Antioch Middle, Third Grade Marshall, Wright, Cameron, Margaret Allen, Croft, and Cameron College Prep. I pair with Mary Luns.
I am Shannon Black, and I am coordinator of the data coaches.
She's not ready to quit yet.
Okay, Bobby Hurley, I work with Laurie Hanson in the Decision Support Office, and I've got Dr. Register and all the associate superintendents in the central office.
Shame on you.
It's kind of like a data coach for the central office.
Your job is the toughest.
It is.
I'm Paul Rowan. I work primarily with middle schools in the Pearl Cohen and Whites Creek clusters.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I want to ask you to kind of hover around here because we want to be able to answer the questions that our board members have very well. At this time, we're going to open up for just an open discussion for you to talk about the experiences you have had, what you've heard, and we are here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, any questions? So I would just like to make a comment and say, I think we've got the best data folk in the United States. Very well informed. I mean, it's just so much, it's mind-boggling. Thank you so much. Questions, anyone?
I have some.
Yes.
Okay. When we had the panel discussion, I think it was Dr. Edwards said that she used the data, the information from the data warehouse to ask the right questions. I would like to have some examples of what she considers the right questions.
I can give you an example. Because of our high mobility rate, I had a school just last year.
They didn't realize that they had an ELL population because we have such a high mobility rate. So conversations are around, subgroups and looking at gains in subgroups. And so as a result of the conversation that we had, she realized that she had an ELL population. In terms of right resources, I was able to work with the ELL department, and ELL resources were available to teachers to share strategies to move those students. So that's just one example.
Thank you.
I had a great data coach tonight, Bobby Early did, and I asked him the availability of the information, and he explained that it was to primarily the counselors, the principals. Will this information ever be available to a parent who wants that information for their child?
Yes, we actually, is this on?
It's on.
Okay. Actually, we have had, there was a recommendation that went out for the parent-teacher conferences. I think it was on the website, and it went out into some parent materials, advising parents that that is one of the things that they could ask their teacher to show them during parent-teacher conferences. I think that was a great strategy. We heard that some parents did go to conferences and ask to see their profile of their student out of the data warehouse so that they can look at, not just the grades, but also look at, like, as you saw, all of the assessment results, the discipline over time and things like that. So we're hoping to do more of that, a lot more awareness around parents so that they can ask their teachers or school staff for that information. We're also, kind of beefing up the grade speed and the portal that we've got there. The data warehouse can feed other systems. And we have, we've been talking about other ways to get parents more engaged in some technology tools where there may be a parent portal and we can feed information to portals from the data warehouse. Now that's not in the very near future, but that's the potential for that to happen. So right now it's by request. Parents have to request that information from the school. But we can't give parents direct access. Our permission structures, the way the warehouse is set up, that we really would need to have much more refined permission structures to protect the confidentiality of other students' data.
Thank you.
But Laura, I've had the experience where parents have gone to the public library and logged in and looked at their child's grades.
Right, which is through grade speed.
Yeah.
And not the data warehouse.
Right.
But that's, a separate system. But
Right.
But yes, all parents have access to see their students' grades, attendance through grade speed.
Yeah. So if they don't have a computer at home, they can still go to a site somewhere in the city and go online.
Exactly.
And the GradeSpeed software is now all through our district, high school, middle, and elementary. So all of our parents have the opportunity to go to the Parent Connection portal and see their students' grades and attendance and any comments or communications that the teachers may want to put out there about their students.
Mr. Kendall?
Okay. Do all of our teachers have access to this data, and are they able to access it? Do they have the capabilities?
Yes, they do. Teachers have access to see the information that you saw tonight on their students and on their classrooms.
Okay. Have they all? I know that it requires training. I think I was informed that they have to be trained first on the utilization. Have they all been trained, or is that in the process of?
The great majority of them have been trained. It's an ongoing effort this year. This school year was going to really be the concentration in the school level to get the data warehouse, its navigation, and how it can help look at student outcomes all the way down to the teacher level. That's our big concentration this year.
Okay, I'd like to say I'm very, very impressed with what I was shown. I did not realize you had it down to that detail. I kind of feel like a dinosaur was evolved into a human. Because when I first got on the board, we had stacks of paper. To do one of these things required tons of paper. But the other question I have is, as a board, and I know we don't need to know what a student is doing, and obviously we don't have that and should not have that ability. But we are policymakers, and there are certain things like, as Edwards mentioned, mobility, class size, a lot of things that we deal with on a board level, not directly, but at least in conjunction with the director of schools. How do we have access to that general information about the profiles of schools to the detail that I saw tonight? I know we can profile somewhat, number of students and that kind of thing, but
right, we have.
To what degree do we have that?
You all as a board, because of the confidentiality of student information in FERPA, you all as a board can have access to the information through others who have access to the data warehouse. We can't provide you all direct access to the warehouse at this point. Again, we don't have refined permission structures. If we said you have access to see a school, you would have access to see all the way down to the individual student level for that school. And you can see that, that's not necessarily needed all the time. But we are working to refine the permission structure in the data warehouse. We've got a team of people and a bunch of activity going on now to do that, to be able to provide aggregate level access so that you would be able to look at the district or down to the school level and see aggregate data at that level without being able to just drill down into the individual students. And once that is in place, yes, that could be provided to the board.
Yeah, I don't think we have a desire to go down to the
Yeah. And for now, you have access to this information, and we have, we'll have folks that can provide it for you upon request. And so we'll let you know what that process is and how to do that and all of that, and provide some instruction on the way that you can get the information. It certainly is available to you.
I'll make a suggestion. Mm-hmm. Just train Visha how to do it.
Well, Visha is definitely a part of that equation. Absolutely. We've talked about it, but we do want to have a process to, in case there is an overwhelming amount of flooding of requests, we also want to have the supports in place to make sure you get what you need.
Vicki was talking to me about how much I access the system, and I told her, I said, Vicki, you don't know how many times I call Paul. Is that right, Paul?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Brandon and then Ms. Mays.
Going back to the slide that had all of the different modules, the ones that were not on that.
Yes.
Those that were in white, you said were not complete yet?
Yes.
what's the priority, the number one priority within those?
Currently, it is for the white, yeah, there's the roadmap. Go ahead, Vicki.
Well, right now, like I said, we are about to finish up the teacher data, teacher and staff data and reporting. After that, we will go into the financials. This spring, we have as soon as the teacher evaluation information is available to us, then we will start building that into the warehouse, as well as the NASA program and TVOS, the TVOS data. We have been able to get TVOS data from the state on our students, and we're working with that data and with them right now to kind of refine it, because it was in a little bit of a situation, the way it came to us. So we're working with them to refine that so we can get that data into the warehouse. But yes, on the other slide where you see the ones that are white, those are on our roadmap. The student health will be later on, we're hoping will be later on this year, because the roadmap I showed you really goes through the summer months of this year. After that, we'll be looking more toward, hoping we'll have the teacher observation data by that time, and student health, and looking at expanding on the financials and payroll information on our faculty and staff.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have to tell you about a recent experience I had, which is leading to this question. A coworker of mine has a new phone, and her 7-year-old changed her passcode and locked her out. So now she's having to go back to the company to try to get her password reset because he said he didn't remember what it was. So my question is about security. There's a lot of information in one place about our students, and my concern is, how are we protecting that information? We continue to add information, and let me tell you, I was overwhelmed. I think it's probably the most fantastic thing. I want to come to your office and just hang out like all day working on this thing. But how do we protect the security of our children being as technologically advanced as we are now? Not me personally, but a lot of people can easily hack into systems now. So how do we protect the information that continues to go into this data warehouse?
Right now, the data warehouse and all the servers that house this information are behind the same firewall and the same securities that keep outsiders from getting into our student management system, our payroll, HR system, the whole thing. So it is behind those same security structures. Like Laura talked about, as far as expanding the access to the data warehouse, say for you all to get aggregate data on your own without having to ask for someone. Right now, the IT department is working on building a foundation in our domain of users that's going to allow us to greatly augment our security groupings that we can put together, so we can secure down to the data level for a user what they can and cannot see. So that part is coming, but it is behind the same securities that has protected us, and we've never been breached thus far. Knock on wood.
That's great. I have one other question related to historical data. I know that this implementation started in 2008 and up to current. So the historical data prior to any information that's in the data warehouse, is it easily accessible to build information for students that, say, are right now in 10th grade or 6th grade? Any student that doesn't have historical data past 2000 or prior to 2007 on the system, how easily accessible is that information in order to build a complete student picture?
Some of the historical data that's been pulled into the data warehouse, like grading and different things, really goes back for a student beyond that year because it was in our student management system. But we chose to start with 07, 08 because of the status of the data within the student management chancery system. With the timeline we had to get this thing off the ground and get it into production, we really felt like that was the first year that we could really work with and get it going in that time span. Now, in my department, Al Gaines, our enterprise solutions architect, has come up with a way that he believes that we'll be able to take the historical data that we know we have in Dr. Changus's office that has been pulled out of our student management system over the years, be able to take that data and pull at least some of that data into the data warehouse in the future. So that's another thing that's coming over the horizon.
Thank you.
Some of this may be sort of thinking out loud, but since this is a work session and so informal, we'll see where I go with this. Unbelievable the amount of information that's there, right? I mean, that is fantastic. And it seems to me to be a really good diagnostic tool. And then the way it's the way to at least identify symptoms. And it's going to be important, it seems to me, that we have a way to probably outside using it, but outside the data warehouse to identify the cause or some of the causes of the symptoms, and those symptoms that are problems or challenges, to address those, and those symptoms that are something great, to spread those. Right. And that is, but it is just a tool. It is not the end, and I think it's important that we see that, because it also can be used to misdiagnose. And that, so we have to keep an eye on that. For it seems to me. At a student level, or at a classroom level. We talk about differentiated instruction. And a lot of times we're talking about, we know students who, we can look at the data, and there are some students who aren't getting it, and we need to go back to them and get them caught up. It's just as important that it shows us the students that got it, and they need to be pushed further and continue to be challenged, so that every student is being challenged to move forward all the time. And then then follow that with the data. At a system-wide level, the actions that we take are, it seems to me, a little more challenging, because a lot of times the movement is slower, it has more factors affecting it, that it's hard to identify the cause, what needs to be done. That's, for example, ACT scores. What the school system did 8 years ago with elementary schools might just now be impacting ACT scores. And that under No Child Left Behind, the two most important things were reading and math, and the accountability didn't care that much about science and social studies for many years, may show up in the next few years in some of this data. And those will be easy to misdiagnose without looking sort of at both a micro level and a macro level. I make all of those comments to say, number one, you recognize all of those potential challenges, and how do we move forward, making sure that, number one, our data is not manipulated and is accurate, and two, that we are taking the right steps to address what the data shows.
Okay, that's a pretty big
Was that
question.
informal and thinking out loud enough?
Yes, and I think we're also, what I heard you say, which was a lot, and
time's up.
All right.
It is 6:30.
It was really rhetorical.
I think some of it. But
Five-word answer.
yeah, and I think we are getting to a point now where I had mentioned that the The data system is not just the tool, but it is the people, processes, technology, and content. And we are definitely addressing a lot of the processes. For example, if we want to know what the root cause of something is, we need to be measuring what we do to see if which students received what interventions or treatment or enrichments, and what kind of effect that had long term. To do that, we need to be able to track cohorts of students, track what they've been doing. Our tracking in the previous years hasn't been up to speed to be able to do some of the advanced analysis to figure out what's going on in third grade and how is it affecting our high schools now. Our tracking, along with the data warehouse and the collection of information, is getting much better. We do have the ability to track programs now, and then the students who are involved in that program. As we get better about putting processes in schools to do that much more deliberately and systematically, over time, we will have what students had what interventions or were involved in what programs in school or out of school, or were involved in what services within our community, and how did that affect their achievement long term, and we can do much more advanced analytics than we can currently do now. I will tell you, we're at the very beginning stages of establishing cohorts and being able to, some of you may have seen a program dashboard. I don't know if you did or not, but we do have a dashboard very similar to what you saw for a high school or whatever, to be able to do that same thing for a program, a group of students who are being worked with together. We can track that program over time, look at the students who were involved in that program. Now we can do it 10 years from now. So I think the capacity that you're talking about, we're developing in conjunction with developing the warehouse.
And if I may, having a system that is totally ours, that we can build and grow how we want to, as we see the different kinds of analysis that we want to do and the things we want to look at, we can build it ourselves. We don't have to depend on somebody else to do it for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to state, this is a comment, not a question. One of the things I was really impressed with was the almost real-time component. My understanding is that this information is updated nightly.
That's correct.
And I think people need to know that, because I think that's important. That kind of eliminates it, whether it eliminates or not, it tracks the concept that you talked about earlier, garbage in, garbage out. If garbage is going in, we can find out early and not have garbage coming out.
Part of that nightly process is what we call DVRs, or daily validation reporting, where it takes a look at all of the information that's flowing into the warehouse, and if it finds anomalies, it lets us know, so we can work with the schools to get that data corrected as quickly as possible, so the corrections can flow back into the data warehouse and have it accurate. Yes.
One last comment is regarding grade speed. For any parent who is currently not using that system, I think that's the closest thing to this information that as a parent you can get. I have used it for every single one of my children, and I absolutely love it. They can't hide from you. It's absolutely fantastic. So if any parent is not using that system currently, until the data warehouse gets to the place where parents have that portal, that's the next best thing. I have triggers. My son loves me for this. I have triggers. I can check attendance. I can, contact teachers. It is the best thing going right now until we get this up and running in a parent portal. So I encourage any parent listening or in this audience, if you don't currently use GradeSpeed, get signed on. It is the best thing that's going on right now for connections, for parent connections.
Dr. Gentry?
I have a question. What is your enhancement request process? Because Shannon was over here just making me come up with all kinds of stuff. And just to kind of contextualize my question, I was explaining to Shannon that, I do work with portals and dashboards in in healthcare. It's my life, unfortunately. And we were talking about the dashboard and how to make it a bit more in your face for the user. So right now, when I log in, I have all these folders. And so I either have to know because someone said something to me, and which brings up an excellent point, and we make the same point in healthcare, that whatever tool we're putting in front of you does not eliminate the need for communication. So communication within the school building between the teachers and the counselors and principals and across the, the various areas that are providing support for our students. However, I think we have an opportunity to, when I log in as a user, be it a principal or a student, I have a dashboard in front of me. I don't have a series of folders that I have to make a conscious decision about what it is I want to know and then trip upon something that needs my attention. So when I first log on, if I can see that I have 4 students at my school that have tripped 3 flags already, that I have 6 students who are overdue for their IEP. So that is something actionable, because that's what this is about. It's not just about knowing that there's data, but reacting to it and taking action on behalf of that student. And so that would be my enhancement request that I'll write up if you have a form for it. I have a problem with that. Have you thought about that?
My team got tired of me saying at some point, we've got to be able to have, and I use Dr. Register as an example. When Dr. Register logs in, his dashboard comes up to him. We have not had the technologies in our district thus far to give us the capability of doing that. But there's a lot of great things that are happening right now and are ramping up. I see that happening sometime in the next year to 2 years.
And then Ms. Mays mentioned about the triggers, and my daughter lets me too, for the triggers. And so that would even mean, from grade speed, which if you look at the 2 environments, I guess my first question should be, is grade speed a direct entry, a data entry application? So I think that's the thing to kind of keep in mind, that what we're looking at is not a data entry system. It is really pulling information from various sources. So I think back to the question about security, I have no more access because this portal has been created or no more opportunity to hack into our data because of this portal than I ever had before. This is just pulling from those various systems that have always existed. So I think that's an important point for people going into a pure panic that, Metro's put my child's business out in the street. It's data that's always been there. That's why 70-year-old people won't go to online banking, because it thinks it's making their information now available to the world. But in that grade speed is a data entry application. No idea what I'm talking about.
You doesn't do online banking.
Forget about that 70. I'm 70, but I'm close.
I tried to put it back in, but I'm
it's out there, Sharon.
Yeah, I know. With grade speed, even with the triggers. So I mean, the dashboard would be, a great start. But is there ever, do we see us getting to the point where there are more deliberate triggers? So I gave the example to Shannon. She did not. She was very patient with me, extremely patient. Where maybe I don't have access because I'm away at a conference, or and over that week I go from having everything going well to now at my school I'm behind on IEPs and I've got flags going off on students. How do we again push that information and those alerts out to the people who are responsible? Again, if we want to use this, eventually we're trying to get to the point where we're going to use this data. We're there in a lot of areas to hold people accountable.
Well, I also want to add, because we had a really great conversation, but one of the great things about the data warehouse is that now our data are transparent. So it's not just the principal seeing the data, it's also the guidance counselor, and it's also the assistant principal. So the power of the warehouse is not the data itself, but it's the conversations that are spawned and the actions that we're able to take in a collaborative manner. So it's really opening up a lot of avenues to be collaborative. I'm not just the guidance counselor. I'm not just the consulting teacher. We all have ownership in all of our students in our building. So that was just another part of our conversation.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of to your point, the dashboards that you see right now are by design very generic because of, again, our user structure. It just knows that you have school level access. So it doesn't know that you are a principal or that you're a guidance counselor, or, it doesn't know that. So we had to make everything very generic. That is a starting point for us. We are investigating other technology tools. We have a group looking at instructional management systems, which do very much, personalize a portal and would allow you to pull in data regularly and have alerts and email you or probably call you on your phone if you needed to be able to know. Those advanced technologies, we're investigating, and how to leverage the warehouse. Building those right now is very difficult, and that's why we're kind of stuck at the generic. You got a high school level dashboard that's really good for principals, counselors, what have you. We are developing a teacher dashboard that will get more information on that class, you know what I mean, brought to the attention, but it will be a teacher logging into the warehouse. We do have a My Reports area where people can put reports, so instead of being daunted by, you know, all these folders and all these reports, ones that work for them can be put in a special folder. We told Dr. Register we would set one of those up for him to kind of streamline his exploration. That will just put those there that you can look at regularly, and those can be kind of an alert, but you need to manually at least go there for now. That's where we are.
Very good. Any other questions from anyone? Well, thank you. This has just been great. I mean, first time out of the barn, I think this is going to be wonderful. Good. I want to thank my personal coach over here. I asked her to stay a little bit longer because every now and then I may have to hunt her for something. But if everybody else had the experience that I did, it's tremendous. And I can tell you, this has come a long way from Dr. Changas and my calling him in June and saying, Dr. Changas, can you make me a disc? These floppy discs that we had to carry around years ago. So we have really, this is exciting. And if you don't tell us anything else tonight, I want to say thank you because it's ours. That's the good part about it. It belongs to Metro Schools, and it's wonderful.
And this is only the beginning.
Only the beginning.
That's right.
And I just think that the fingertip that you've shown us tonight is a whole new world. So we appreciate it. And I want to thank the staff, Dr. Register, and I know you have comments, but this staff works untiringly, and I think it's great. I really do.
Well, I would like to say that we've got all of you who participated in the program tonight, data coaches, teachers, everyone who participated, please stand up. Please. For Vicki and for Al and for Laura and for every one of you, this work, we hired someone originally to get us started with this, but we've taken it so much further, and the fact that we can develop our own system now and take it where we want to is very powerful, and I think we're unique in that regard. So they've done terrific work. You've done terrific work. Thank you very much.
Dr. Rich, is this process that we have, is it copyrighted or patent or whatever, or we can sell it to other systems if we decide?
Laura's the one that's about making money for us.
Yeah, I actually
nobody can just take it.
No, but there is actually a consortia of users who use the framework that we adopted, which is Otis Ed, and so there are other states that we work with. North Dakota is one that is pretty far advanced, and we have shared some of our reports with them. We actually had a meeting with Memphis City Schools and Shelby County, both in the same room at the same time, early on in that process. So, and
they're further advanced than we are. Let's leave it alone.
And they're not.
Oh, no, okay.
And I think it may have been one of the first points of agreement that they said that, we agree, we would really like to go here, and, Nashville, would you help us do that? And Dr. Cash, their superintendent, actually asked Dr. Register, well, how much are you willing to help us? So, we may be able to say how much you're willing to spend, but no, it's not that. So there are opportunities, but we are collaborative with other folks that are doing this as well, and we can share information and reports back and forth on structures and things.
And that is one beauty of the product that we bought. It's called iMart. And we are a charter member of the iMart Association, which is a group of all the districts and states that use this platform where we can share reporting, we can share data, schemas, the platform itself, what we're doing, what they're doing, and with the way it's put together, it all kind of blends. So if we wanted to take something somebody else is doing and put it into ours, all we do is get it and put it in. So it's a great software.
I take back my proposal of charging anybody.
Just a couple of announcements. Board retreat, please mark your calendars for March 16th and 17th, and you'll have details following shortly. And our next board meeting is Tuesday, February 14th, 5 p.m. That's Valentine's Day. I drew a little heart down here so I wouldn't forget. So just watch for more information coming from Ms. Hawkins on this. And if you have any questions, ask.
My anniversary.
That's your anniversary?
I think she said, did you say that was your anniversary too? I heard you say I won't be here. I heard you say I won't be here. Be quiet.
That's Valentine's night, Mr. Yes.
I have a couple of announcements. Deloitte sponsored the Fast Food Night at McGavock High School, and we had to reschedule it because on Friday we got so much snow, so we had to come back the next Tuesday and have it. And despite being rescheduled and despite McGavock Pike being blocked for a good part of the night and being under a tornado watch during the day, we still had close to 90 families that we helped that night, and to take those students to take the next step towards the secondary education. And Deloitte had almost 40 volunteers there to help with those students. So it was a very successful night, and I want to tell everyone at Deloitte, thank you so much for your support and for being there for us. Next Tuesday, the 31st, I'll be at Hermitage Elementary in the morning to dedicate their new library, and everyone is welcome, and you're welcome to come and help purchase some new books for that school. That night is the Academy Showcase for McGavock High School. So because the McGavock Cluster Coalition is the sponsor of the Freshman Academy, we'll be there to help welcome the parents and to show them around the school. So everyone is welcome to that as well.
I have a couple of
Yes, ma'am.
Very quickly. Actually on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the Cane Ridge High School will be sponsoring a financial aid application assistance program. It'll be from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So anyone who is looking for assistance in completing the financial aid applications, please, please, please come to Cane Ridge High School. There will be several people there to assist with that. Also, on next Tuesday from 6 to 8, there will be a community meeting at Antioch Middle School for various things, but one of the things that we'll be talking about is the new Cane Ridge Elementary School. So anyone who's interested, please come out to that meeting. It is next Tuesday from 6 to 8.
That's it. Okay. No one else?
Well, be there no further business. Let's adjourn.
Let's go home.
Waverly.
You too. And we're going